are you coping with all of this, and how are you feeling right now?
Through prayer, by the grace of God, because it's hard, you know. I'm just thankful that I have my friends behind me supporting me, because if I didn't have anybody, I don't know how well I would be coping.
When you look at this picture of your little girl and you think there's no answer, she's still missing, what goes through your mind?
Where is she? How did she feel before? What was she thinking about? Will I ever find out what happened, like what really happened to her?
Do you think Maleah is still alive?
As a mother, I want to hope that she is.
What do you think happened to your daughter?
I don't know. I don't know what happened to her. I can come up with 1,000,001 reasons, but I don't know what happened to her.
And we know the latest developments. Mr. Vince he was charged and he's now in jail. And we know his story from the beginning and fast forwarding till now with these charges. What do you have to say to him?
I don't have nothing to say to him. Nothing at all. Nothing.
Have you had a chance to talk with him with, all of the latest twists and turns and developments in the case?
No.
And you were away for a funeral. How did you find out about the disappearance of Maleah? Were you still en route home? Were you still away?
I came home on the 3rd. He was supposed to pick me up. I waited for him for 2 hours. And so I had my mother come pick me up. And I just assumed that maybe he was just driving around, or maybe he was having car issues. I know it was raining that night. I didn't realize that they were missing until a few hours shortly.
At that point, what's going through your mind? You can't reach him. You don't know where your daughter is. What were you thinking?
I was terrified. I didn't know what to think. I was trying not to think the worst, Maybe it was a car issues. I don't know.
And then that moment when you finally reach him and you learn that Maleah is missing, did you believe his story that he told you at first?
I wanted to believe it. I really, really wanted to believe that story.
What kept you from believing it?
The thought of him actually doing something to her, or something worse, something gruesome.
She grew suspicious very quickly upon returning to Houston from Massachusetts, because he ceased to communicate with her. He wouldn't talk to her. He wouldn't return phone calls. He wouldn't respond to text messages. He would refuse to meet with her, and he would do everything he could to avoid and stay away from her. And then that's when she grew extremely suspicious and felt that his story obviously must have been a lie, and there was more to it.
Gotcha. Now, did you have any suspicions that Maleah had been abused before she disappeared?
No.
So this is someone you trusted.
Exactly. This is someone I trusted and I loved. And if something was going on, it was behind closed doors.
Brittany, at one point, what clicked to you? Okay, something isn't adding up. And that moment that you say, okay, I'm really suspicious now, something isn't added up. What was that moment or that click for you?
When I realized that he had been avoiding me, how all the signs of a person that's guilty. He didn't want to communicate. His family wouldn't let me communicate. I just couldn't understand. If you didn't do anything, why aren't you out here with me? Why aren't you out here? I didn't understand that. It just didn't make sense to me.
And then days later, those pictures surface with Darion carrying the laundry bag with the trash bag inside. When you first saw those pictures, what was your immediate response? And what did you think?
From what I had already known at the time, I couldn't think but ask, is that Maleah? Why do you have that basket when you just got laundry from my mother on the 1st? What are you doing with the basket? What is that? I know our routines. That's not laundry.
And now, Brittany, I've got to ask you, of course, this story has become a national story, national headlines. So many people searching for Maleah, praying for Maleah. But people are watching this case closely, and they're not only looking at Darion, but you have some people watching, and they think you need to be in jail too. What do you have to say to that, to those people who feel you should be in jail too right now?
People are entitled to however they think, to however they feel, to their own opinions. I know my truth. And I love my daughter unconditionally. I would never do anything like that, or my children, or my sons, anything. I don't have a heart to do anything like that.
There are a lot of things being said online, comments that are being made via social media about if her father died on April 11th, why did she leave on the 30th? Well, what they don't understand is they had to raise money to get him buried. There was no burial policy, money on hand to bury him. So they had to make arrangements to do what they needed to do to get him successfully buried. That's why it took from the 11th to the 30th. The money was not readily available to bury her father. So she also did not have the money to pay for her own plane ticket. A family member of hers, a relative, paid for her ticket, and they didn't have the money to pay for the children to go.
And
they only had enough to pay for her ticket. So she went on the 30th and came back on the 3rd. Gotcha. And the obituary states he died on the 11th, and his services was on the 1st.
So I'm guessing you had left Maleah with Darion before in the past. And how was it then? Was everything okay then? No problems there? And speaking of what people are saying, how they feel, I watched that video from the courthouse, and you had those protesters out there at the courthouse, one person even yelling, murderer. In that moment, I know you were silent, but what were you thinking? How do you feel about that? People calling you a murderer.
How did I get to this place? How did I get to this place? It was awful. I've never had to ever experience anything like that before. You see things like that in movies. It just wasn't real for me. It just wasn't real.
And I know people were screaming murder. I don't think everyone thinks that you would do anything to harm your daughter. I think there are people out there who say, as a mother, she should have done more to protect this little baby girl. What do you have to say to that, Brittany? Do you think you could have done more?
Avoid that one. Avoid that one. avoid that.
So-
Because that's going to play out in the CPS hearing. There's a gag order in the CPS case. Those questions are being raised within the CPS arena and the courtroom, and the judge has put a gag order on her that restricts her from even answering anything like that.
Well, going back, do you think you would have done anything differently, or do you regret anything?
Once again, it's the same thing, same question, but that's not something she can answer. She's under a gag order.
Right.
And that's in that arena.
And I'm not talking about the CPS investigation or the case. I'm just saying, as a mother and this child and this 4-year-old who is still missing, and your ex-fiance now is now facing those charges. Do you think, as a mother, you could have done more to protect your little girl?
These are things I've said to Brittany based on my conversations extensively with her, based on my investigation to this case, based on everything that we learned, that we found out. There are no perfect parents. Nobody's perfect. But I do believe there were warning signs, that had she looked deeper into those warning signs, that intuition as a mother, but also at the same time, you got to remember, she's grieving the death of her father. So psychologically and mentally, she's turned upside down, stressed out about her father's funeral services, about him passing. And at the last moment, she gets her family member to pay for her ticket, but can't pay for the kids. So she was under a tremendous amount of stress. Hindsight is 20/20. We all can be Monday morning quarterbacks, but the game was played on Sunday. So, I do believe she could have did a little bit more had she not been under so much stress, and look at the warning signs that were there that we learned of.
And I think it's clear. I mean, personally, when you see that picture of her all pretty in her pink tutu, and then you look at these pictures of her on the beach, it is obvious that this little girl was loved
And well taken care of.
Right.
Absolutely.
And when you see those pictures and you fast forward to now, do you go back and say, okay, I regret this? Or do you have any regrets?
I think as a parent, at some point, everybody has regrets. I mean, nobody is perfect. You don't have to be in my situation to have regrets. Everybody's situation is different. Yeah, I probably could have done some things better, but
when we came out of court, there was a few people yelling murderer, murderer, but those people need to understand that the video proves while Maleah was outside, going in and seen again outside, that this mother was in Massachusetts. Flight, ticket, video footage proves she was in Massachusetts while her daughter was still alive. I don't believe she had absolutely anything to do with what this man did to her child.
And I think that is the overall consensus. But I think that the problem lies, and I think this is where people get critical. They say, why didn't you take your daughter? Why would you leave your daughter with this man?
like I said before, because I trusted him. I didn't know that after burying my father, I was going to have to come home to this nightmare.
And financially, she didn't have the money to take the kids. She didn't even pay for her own ticket. A relative paid for that ticket.
How were things with you and Darian before you left for your father's funeral?
Let's not speak to that. Let's move
You
on.
know, that's fine. So is there anything you want to clear up, Brittany? Anything that you want to straighten? We talked about how this story has a lot of twists and turns. Is there anything you want to clear up or straighten up?
That I am a good mother. That I'm hurting just like everybody else, and I want answers too. And that I'm a human being first. I had no idea. I had no idea things are gonna turn out like this. I had no idea that I was gonna have to come home and have to search for my daughter. I'm devastated. Every day, every minute of the hour, I'm devastated. I just need people to know that I'm hurting too. This is my daughter that I carry.
They're still investigating. They're still searching. What's the latest in the search for Maleah? I know they had suspended
it. Yeah.
What do you want to see happen? Do you think where are you leading police? Are you just saying I think you should do this? I know there was something about a mail route, a family.
Yeah, that's already been dealt with, of him having a mail route in the Roshan area, and so Equus Search and we talked about that a couple of days ago. Tim Miller and I about the Roshan area, trying to get a specific detailed route of where he actually went and where he worked. The number one concern right now for everybody, for you, me, her, everybody in the city, around the country, is where's Maleah? That's where we all got to go. We got to stay there until we can find out where Maleah is. None of us can truly get closure until we know where Maleah is. And so all of us must continue to channel our energies in the best manner that we possibly can, however we can, to try to find Maleah.
Brittany, after all of this has gone down, and you going through this, and I know it's hard for you, is there anything that in raising your other two kids in the future, or any things that you say, okay, I'm going to do this from now on? Has this changed you as a mother and how you parent your other two boys?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Don't speak to it though. Just that you can say it. Yeah, it's absolutely.
All right. Anything else you wanna clear up? Anything else you want to say? I know you talked about. You said you really want people to know that you were a good mother.
That's it.
And she seems so sweet. And I think
she's
that's
very sweet.
Yeah. Talk about her likes, her things, and stuff like that. What kind of little girl was she?
She was playful. She loved to dance, to Just Dance videos on YouTube. We would dance together. She would sit with me while I would get dressed, like I used to when I did with my mother. I remember doing that. And she was so caring. I mean, she always would ask, "You feel better? Mama, you feel better? Mama, you okay?" She always wanted you to feel better. You know, she was always helpful. She was always friendly. Her smile was just so beautiful.
And Brittany, do you understand all of the emotion going into this, from whether it's people here in Houston or all over the country? You know, even when I look at that little girl's picture and I think about where is she, what happened to her, it angers me. Do you understand why people are so angry? This is a 4-year-old girl who's gone and no one knows
what happened. I think when people look at Maleah, even for those who aren't parents, just to imagine this child, from looking at her, it's almost you can tell what kind of child she was, the beauty in her spirit. And I think that makes everybody emotional, because you look at her and it's almost you have a sense of knowing her.
Do you have anything else you'd like to say? Oh, no.
You know, I think a lot of people, when they look at the picture of Maleah, they see the beauty, the innocence, the defenseless child. I think a lot of us who are parents can literally see our own daughter, our own children in that child. And people just can see the innocence, the defenselessness of a little child. There is nothing that that baby did or could have done to justify what has happened with her. There is nothing. There is no excuse, none, that can justify what has happened with this beautiful child. I don't give a damn what happened, what took place, what was involved. There ain't nothing that justifies what happened to this child. That's the part that angers so many people. What could this beautiful angel have done that would bring it to this point? That's what angers a lot of people.
Brittany, thank you so much for talking to me. I appreciate it. We want to let you all want to get some out of 2 shots.
Yes.
Okay. So what happens next? I know Stefania's been sort of keeping me in the loop. I know she's been covering it.
Oh yeah, I've been, yeah.
I know.
I just want people to just learn, just to learn from this experience, because I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I wouldn't.
You know what I hope? I hope a lot of women can take from this case. You gotta do a tremendous, tremendous due diligence in vetting any man that you let around your children. I don't care how handsome he may be. I don't care what bills he can pay. I don't care how good he may be in or out of the bedroom. You got to first make damn sure that that man can be trusted when your back is turned around your children. And if you can't get that assurance, you're better off by yourself.
And do you think that's something that this will start the conversation on, is, you know, teaching or warning other mothers out there, hey, you know, you have to be careful who you get involved with, especially someone that you're going to have around your children.
Absolutely.
What would you tell those other mothers who may see this story, and you going through what you're going through now, other mothers out there with children who may be dating or dealing with guys? What do you have to say to them to learn from this situation involving you?
No matter what the situation is, your children always come first. Always, in anything and everything, they have to come first. Don't become so comfortable to where you trust that person enough. I mean, I don't even care who it is. It could be your friend or a family relative, anybody. Just make sure that your children are always good.